I'm passing through the Squam Lakes area in Holderness, New Hampshire, on my way back home to Conway. I was just in Plymouth. I visited the polar caves. I was actually looking for the monument, for the plaque, the memorial for the Pemigewasset tribe that was murdered. I couldn't find it. I'm going to return another time with some sage and some tobacco, and when I go to that place, I'm going to say some prayers and put down some tobacco in honor of the people who died there, who are our relatives. And as I was driving through here, and I came to remember a man named Charlie True. I don't know if many of you from the Wabanaki community remember Charlie, but Charlie was working with the Science Center in Holderness because they uncovered some Native American graves, and they wanted to relocate the bodies. And Charlie said that he didn't want that done. He wanted them to stay where they lay and remain buried where they were. And it led to a kind of a conflict back in the day. For those of you who remember it, Charlie True, he was standing up for against desecration of the graves. But I want to bring about a topic of discussion right now. So, I'm Passamaquoddy, fourth generation descendant. I've spent a lot of time in the Wabanaki community for the past 20 years. And I've come to a point of realization. I have a business. I travel all over New England. And if you want to put our people on a map, I mean, you could put the Pleasant Point Passamaquoddy Reservation on a map. You could put the Old Town Indian Island Penobscot Reservation on a map. And then you could kind of figure we have Passamaquoddy, Maliseet, Micmac, some Western Abenaki in Vermont. I don't know if you've ever been out that way, but you'd be looking forever to find anybody else who is Wabanaki in that state. There's very, very few Native people. I mean, they come around. There was like the powwow circuit, you know, and you'd meet Native people at the powwows, but when you go around New England and you realize the destruction that happened to our people, you don't really realize it until you travel all in New England and you know that on every bank of every river and every lake there were villages, huge communities. And for me as a Wabanaki person, when I stand along the shore of one of these lakes and I don't see anyone else, and I just see the empty shores, vacant of our people, and to know that less than a few generations ago there were villages of our people on that same lake and they're gone. It's a haunting feeling for me to know that those people didn't survive what happened to them. Whether it was a raid, I had a vision one time. I was in a sweat lodge up on the reservation, and I had a vision, and it was a vision of being chased through the woods. It was a village. It was a vision of what was going on. I just remember being chased by dogs. Believe it or not, we were being chased by dogs. And what I saw was people being chased by these big dogs. And the dogs would grab you by the back of the leg and you'd fall down. And if you were able to fight the dog off, that wasn't the end of the chase, because what followed behind the dogs were men on horses with guns. So after the dogs would find you and knock you down on the ground or maim you, those men on the horses would be there to shoot you down. And when you try to imagine, how did our people get killed? I mean, if you could imagine a group of hunters, they'd sick their dogs out on a small village, and the dogs would find the people, and the people would be running for their lives from these packs of dogs. And of course they'd be screaming, and the men with the horses and guns would go to where the commotion was, and after the dogs got the guys down on the ground, they'd just shoot them and kill them. And that would have been a sure way to exterminate a village of people, by using dogs, horses, and guns. That's what I saw in my vision. And it's bothered me my whole life. I spent a lot of time out in the woods, and I used to remember exploring the woods and finding the stone burial mounds, which were graves of our people. I mean, if people died here in the winter months, from November until April, usually the ground was frozen, so what was done was the bodies were covered with stones because the ground was too frozen to be dug. And I used to find these mounds out in the woods, and it just would stop me from whatever was going on in my life, and I would have to imagine that these people died running, and somebody took the time to cover their bodies with all those stones. And oftentimes those were family members, you know. And I don't know if you guys feel the same thing that I do, is when you're off the reservation and you're living out in the, I don't know, you'd call it the Western world. I don't know, where we're not in our community, and we're on our own, and we don't see any other native people, but we're on our land, and we realize somebody killed everybody on that lake. Somebody killed everybody on that river. It's a haunting feeling, and I feel like we, as Wabanaki men, we have a responsibility to consider what will be the future of our people. and to consider ourselves almost as an endangered race, because there's not many of us around. I mean, if we took a population census, we are the greatest minority on the earth right now. And every one of us is important. Every one of us who survive is important. And we need to unite. You know, when I go to Portland, I see a few of us around. Once in a while, you see a person driving around Portland with a Passamaquoddy sticker on their car. You'll see a couple of us walking around on the streets there. But we're still not a united community. And I just don't understand that, because every other group of people sticks together except us, it seems like. And I don't know why that is. And I think that's what our major problem is as a nation, as a people, is that we don't have a central community. We're divided. You know, it's almost like, okay, well, the Penobscots look out for the Penobscots, the Passamaquoddies look out for the Passamaquoddies, the Micmacs for the Micmacs. No, we need to come together as one people, as a Wabanaki nation, a confederacy. That's what we really need to do. We need to put out a calling to our people and to gather together and set out a discussion about what we need to do going forward from here. And that's why I keep telling people I really feel like we need to form a community in the mountains, in the valleys of Mount Agiocochuk, because this is our best land. I mean, if you were to consider New England our territory, our traditional territory, and you traveled all around New England, you're going to realize that the White Mountain National Forest, that whole valley, that watershed, those mountains, those farmlands, that's our most valuable land. And why are we not focusing on that? Why are we still scattered? And I would like to see our young people gather together and move into this, into the North Conway area, and get jobs and put their money together and, you know, build a small community with the intent that that community is going to be a family center for future generations to build on. I don't know if any of this makes sense. These are just my thoughts I'm driving through, and I just wanted to put this out there and see if anybody else feels the same. If you are listening to this and you want to talk to me about any of these issues, you can give me a call, 207-391-0787. I live right in Conway.